What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another video. Today I'm going to touch on my week 1 video for my Japanese and what I've done. So if you remember, I made a video where I said my goal was to do 1,000 hours of Japanese this year. So for this year, my goal, the only goal that I have in 2023, is to accumulate 1,000 hours of study/immersion in Japanese. And the first week, I didn't want to do anything super crazy. I wanted to kind of ease back into it, but also one of my best friends from childhood, Evan, was in from Japan. I haven't seen him in 3 years, so I spent a lot of time at his house versus studying in immersion, although I pretty much immersed the whole time, because when I was down there for 3 or 4 hours on end, we were just watching Japanese YouTube or Japanese content or reading stuff or talking about kanji and going over kanji. So I spent a lot of time. I just didn't calculate that. So I'm actually probably a little bit ahead of where I need to be, but I didn't count it, and that's okay. The first 2 days of the year, I actually tracked on my old app that I used to use, which is called a time tracker, but I started using Toggle because I like the ability to use my phone and then, of course, be able to use my computer if my phone is charging or something like that. With a time tracker, I always had to have my phone on me in order to track my time, and it just made it a little bit easier. So I got that from Refold. Shout out Refold, I guess. Let's get into it. I've got my notes right here. That's why I'm looking down. But anyway, for this week, I did, it's not much. I did 9 hours and 33 minutes of Japanese. However, that's not actually fully true. I am tracking a little bit of passive listening just to kind of see where I'm at. I don't know how long I'm going to count it, but I'm going to give you the totals without the passive listening as well. But just to let you know, I did do some passive listening, 2 hours, 51 minutes and 45 seconds of passive listening. That's it on passive listening. For passive listening, I listen to a little bit of music, but I predominantly listen to, whether it be interviews. I actually just recently watched Atsuego channel where he had Matt on there interviewing Matt in Japanese. So stuff like that. Now let's get into it. I like to break this down into study and then immersion. And so we're going to do that. Study wise, I did 3 hours, 58 minutes and 36 seconds of study. Again, not counting, the Sunday and Monday of the first days of the week. That went really well. Everything I'm doing is working really, really solidly. A couple of things that I'm using is the Core 2K 6K deck that Leva Kiwi mentions in his channel. I like the Core 2K 6K deck. I used to use an app called iknow.jp, which had basically this exact deck. However, their system for SRS isn't the greatest, so I decided to go ahead and get this Anki deck so I could do it in Anki, because in iknow.jp, it updates by time. So if you finish all of your cards in the morning, there may be some ready at 6 o'clock in the evening or even an hour from now. You never know. And so I like with Anki that it's just there, you do it and it's done for the day, and then you do it again tomorrow. It just kind of took a little bit of that pressure off, and that's going well. That deck has 5,999 cards. I have no clue why there's one card missing. I don't really know, but I've been through 312 cards, but I'm not learning all of those. I've suspended 237 cards because there's a very large portion of the stuff at the beginning that I know. I've done 75 cards, or I should say I'm learning 75 cards, and some of those are cards that I struggle with, and then others are cards that it's words that I know, but perhaps it's something that I haven't heard in a long time, or maybe it's just a different way to say open or close or something like that, and I just wanted to have it in that deck, so I would hear it a couple more times just to have it, because it's not something I've heard in a long time. That is that. The other thing that I'm using is Game Gengo's N5 grammar deck. I know a majority of N5 grammar, and that's fine. However, I wanted to just kind of refresh instead of starting from anew. What I like about his deck is it's all for the purpose of being able to recognize it. I'm not saying I don't need to know how to recall this, especially with an upcoming trip to Japan. Obviously, I'm going to need to know how to say things, but right now I need to learn how to just internalize it in order to get better at it. I used to try to use a website called Boonpro, and I like it. I just don't like having to type out the answers. I just want flashcards to be able to show. And this has been a great flashcard deck. There are 210 total cards. I've been through 160. I have 48 cards left, so I'll finish that deck this week. Nothing's posing too much of a challenge. The way that I go about those, of course, is just if I recognize the grammar pattern, I'm not worried about all the other words in the deck. Right now, I'm just trying to get better at recognizing these grammar patterns when they are spoken. The deck is put together really well, and of course, it uses video games as the basis for it, so everything's perfect. All this stuff will be linked in the description below, of course. So I plan on finishing that deck this week. Those are the core decks that I am using. Once I finish the Game Gingo N5 deck, I am going to go through the N4 deck. There is not an N3 deck, and that's okay, but we will see when the time comes when I get there. I will probably slow down on the N4 deck because I know a lot of N4 grammar, but I think it's not going to be just a refresher like the N5 course. I think there's going to be some new information, so I'm probably not going to do 20 cards a day on that. I may go down to 10. We'll see how it goes. So, but that is it really as far as study. I'm not really doing much else. Some other stuff, I'm using Tokini Andy's website as well for watching a grammar explanation here and there and stuff like that. So that's pretty much it on that. Going to Immersion, I've watched a couple of episodes of Demon Hunter that I think I really like that show. And I've watched Alice in Borderland season 2 just started, so I've watched a little bit of that. There's not much else that I do in that regard. Like I went through an episode of Bite Size Japanese Podcast, but right now I'm just kind of having fun doing what I'm doing with the Immersion that I'm using. I will use Comprehensible Japanese, which is a great YouTube channel here, and just stuff like that to practice and also be able to have comprehensible stuff so I feel like I'm advancing and things like that. I know that you need to shoot for a little bit more difficult than what you're shooting for or what your level is, so you're learning, and I find that I'm doing that. I think that is about it pretty much. That is the Japanese journey technically right now. So I've done 6 hours and 42 minutes of actual study, not passive. So in order to hit 1,000 hours this year, I need to hit about 19.25 hours per week. That's 1,000 divided by 52. So I'm about 13 hours behind on that, but I'm going to make that time up because like I said, my friend Evan isn't here anymore. So I'm not going to be spending 6 or 8 hours a day over at his house or whatever the case may be. And I'm going to get that Japanese in. And also I wanted to kind of slowly lead into this thing that I'm doing here. That way I don't burn out, the first week. So when I do immerse, I'll have subtitles on, of course, and I will look up a word, here or there, depending on what kind of immersion I'm doing. But it's hard to say exactly how much because with 2 hours and 43 minutes of immersion, it's not like I've done it a lot. So as the weeks stabilize, I'll be able to have a little bit more information about that. But I am looking words up. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know down below. And as always, I will see you guys in the next video.